If you own an Airbnb in Bali, your listing could be removed. Not next year, not maybe, but within weeks if you don't comply. Indonesia has officially begun reinforcing regulations requiring all short-term rental operators to register a legal business and obtain a business identification number, also known as NIB, Nomor Induk Beruhasa. And platforms like Airbnb are now actively requesting hosts to upload this number or risk being unlisted. This is not speculation, that's actually already happening. But before we get into all these details, and I'll share you my own experience as a Airbnb host in Bali, as always, bringing you the unbiased truth in real estate, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and let's get into the video. Many of you know that since 2019, I've been operating an Airbnb hotel in Bali alongside my local partner Wayan. So this is in theory, this directly impacts us too. And while we have already applied for Indonesia's OSS system and are currently awaiting the official issuance of our NIBs, so we can submit them to Airbnb and remain compliant under the hotel category, or more specifically in our case, short-term lets. And judging by the messages I've received both from you guys and from Airbnb directly, many hosts are confused, worried, or simply unaware of what's happening. So let's break this down properly. What exactly has changed? According to multiple media outlets including the Bali Sun, NDTV Travel, Tourism Review, Bali Solve, and official Airbnb communication, Indonesia has now begun enforcing these new regulations requiring all short-term operators, not only on Airbnb but other platforms as well, to register a legal business entity under the specific short-term renting category, obtain a valid NIB or NIB, operate under the correct KBLI business code, ensure zoning compliance, and register for local tax. Airbnb itself has added a mandatory NIB category to be added in the platform. Hosts who fail to comply will risk listings being removed, fines from the authorities, and enforcement action. We all know and follow the developments in Indonesia, and we've seen so many zoning restrictions being changed back and forth from required legally operative tourism zones to just green zones and yellow zones, and all these colors and so on are super confusing. That's why you really need to know the details before you start operating in Indonesia. An important update is not only that, but also the deadline they put in place. Originally, the compliance deadline was March 31st, 2026. Now, here's the important update. We all know that authorities, not only in Indonesia, but in many other countries, are super bureaucratic and the processes are insanely lengthy. That's why, as per official Airbnb support communication that was sent to me directly, the Indonesian government has granted an extension. The new deadline is now May 31st, 2026. Well, this was kind of expected because there are multiple, and I mean it, multiple short-term letting options, not only in Bali, but Indonesia as a whole. It's a massive country with tens of thousands of islands, and you can fact check that. I think it's around 14 or 15,000 islands. And imagine how many properties are there. So this will definitely require more time than just saying it 1 month notice and implementing it in March, because we got this notification just 1 month or so prior to the deadline. This gives hosts additional time, but make no mistake, this is being enforced. Listings without a valid NIB will be unlisted until compliance is completed. Unlisted means not visible, and not visible obviously means not bookable. So you won't be able to make money. And to be honest, I'm even not sure about myself because we are still waiting this NIB to be granted. Now, what I personally received, and let me be clear with this, I personally received this notification inside the Airbnb platform and also via email. First, it was a hard deadline for March 31st, then an update extending it to May 31st. Honestly, we actually went over that first deadline and I was expecting all the listings to be removed because, just frankly speaking, we didn't receive much information. We didn't receive the replies that we wanted to understand exactly under which category to make it. So this shows that it's an automated platform level enforcement. This isn't rumor, it's actually being built in the Airbnb system. And when I looked in there, in my dashboard, it always pops up this notification for every single listing because we have 20 units there. So for every single one of them, there is a field where they request for this NIB number. The administrative and legal processes in Bali and in Indonesia as a whole are very slow. Getting proper zoning clearance, documentation, or for some PTPMA structuring, these things take time and sometimes are very costly. So honestly, it was expected that they would extend the deadline, and most probably they might even extend it further. There are plenty of property management companies that are owned by foreigners in there, and I'm pretty sure many of them, if not more than half, are still in the process or might not even know about this. That's, quite crazy, but this is the truth. Also, the local bureaucracy simply cannot process thousands and thousands of applications straight away. But that doesn't mean this is going away. It just means they gave us a breathing room and to everyone else, so we still have to take it seriously. What is a NIB or NIB? NIB stands for Nomor Induk Berukhasa. It is a 13-digit business identification number issued via Indonesia's OSS system, short for Online Single Submission. It confirms you're legally operating, you are registered for this business activity, you are compliant with zoning and tax implications, and most importantly, foreigners cannot operate individually. They must operate through a PTPMA with the correct KBLI code for short-term rentals, or of course have their own local partners and family members, such as in my case. Why is Indonesia doing this? Well, there are multiple underlying reasons. First, of course, that's the crackdown on the illegal villas, tax enforcement, and zoning control, which is even more important because we've seen how many beautiful natural reserves have been converted to a tourist place or an official area where you can actually build a hotel or a villa. And this destruction really affects the nature and the beauty that we have in Indonesia, formalizing the hospitality sector, and most importantly, addressing over-tourism concerns, especially in the last few years. Tourism Review actually also reported discussions around restricting some of the short-term listings and rental activities entirely in some of these sensitive zones. This isn't random, this is structural reform. What's the real impact on hosts though? If you're operating without a PTPMA, without zoning clearance, without a tax registration, you are definitely exposed and have to act right now, even if you've been hosting for years. Airbnb now actively displays compliance concerns in the dashboard, as you saw in the screenshots. Now let me give you my honest view and personal take on the Bali Airbnb situation as a whole. In the past few years, operating Airbnbs and short-term lets on other platforms in Bali has become significantly difficult. It is first and foremost extremely competitive. But secondly, which is my major concern, the maintenance is just heavy. It's required all time. It's weather exposed and it's operationally very demanding. There's heavy rainfall. There is the jungle environment, humidity, mold risks, vegetation overgrowth. This requires constant upkeep of the land and the property. To maintain high Airbnb standards, we had to continuously invest in maintenance, landscaping, repairs, waterproofing, pest control, staff management. Yes, returns can still be attractive, but they are no longer as passive, which is why, personally, I've moved away from being actively involved in day-to-day operations. We've just fully automated it. And I've shifted my primary focus into other, more sustainable markets: Dubai, Georgia, Moldova, and several emerging regional destinations. Bali was an incredible chapter in my life, and it will continue to be so, I believe, because I'm always going back, checking on the properties, enjoying the weather there, and catching up with friends. It's amazing. It is a paradise island indeed. But markets evolve, and the investors have to evolve with them as well. What this means for the market: short-term pain, but you'll get long-term stabilization. What we might see is the reduction in illegal supply, more professional operators, stronger pricing power for compliant hosts, consolidation towards serious investors. In my view, this will separate casual hosts from serious operators. But my personal most important reasoning for the island, because I really love it and I have a lot of respect and appreciation for what impact it had in my life, I really think this is a major important regulation to reduce all this building in areas and zones that are not for that, and preserving the nature beauty as it is. For property investors though, if you're considering investing in Bali right now or you've been considering in the past, this changes your due diligence checklist and perhaps might increase your initial sunk costs. You now must evaluate really deeply, do a proper due diligence on the zoning requirements, first of all, business structuring, licensing, PTPMA viability and tax compliance, and also understand all this NIB issuing process. Buying a villa and just putting it on Airbnb yourself or even through a property management is no longer the valid option. This market has matured. If you're thinking about investing in Bali or restructuring an existing asset, this is exactly where strategic advisory matters. Through my company, Agora Advisory, we help investors evaluate jurisdictional risk, structure the company properly, analyze short-term versus long-term feasibility, assess legal compliance exposure, and compare Bali with other global markets. Whether it's Bali, Dubai, Georgia, or anywhere else, we look at it as an investor-first risk adjustment assessment. Feel free to reach out if you want to discuss your investment in more details before making any decisions. All the links are in the description below. To wrap it up, this is not a panic moment, but it is a wake-up call to many, even including to us. Indonesia is officially formalizing short-term lets, compliance is no longer optional, and the era of informal hosting is officially ending. If you're already compliant, you'll likely benefit. If you're not, you need to act right now before you get any penalties. And as always, bringing you the unbiased truth in real estate. If you like this video, please drop your comments below. Also share your experience if you actually host in Bali or you have some properties there that are hosted by a property manager. I'm really curious to see how your journey progresses. And with that, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to see more, and I'll see you in the next one.